The next project on the Back to Basics series is an entranceway or hall table. Now once again I've incorporated a drawer in the design, and which complicates things a little. However, whilst Dowelmax won't make that task easy, it will make it easier. Now the construction will be 100% dowel, which is stronger and more accurate than any other system in use, and that includes the mortise and the domino. We've been making that guarantee statement for approximately 20 years now, and it's interesting to note that not one person has ever contradicted us, and more importantly, not one person has ever proven us wrong. Let's get started. This is a diagram of a rough diagram, it's not to scale. This is the front elevation, and this is the end elevation taken as viewed from this end. The first joint I'm going to show you is this one here, either one. Now there's 8 joints on this section here, which are all very similar, so I'm only going to show you one of these. The only difference being that we could only get, because these longitudinal rails are made up of 3 parts. We could only get 3 dowels in there. So this is the way we begin with these. We start off with our check marks or numbers. I actually use numbers now, so that would be 1, 1, and 1 in these 2 reference edges here, and 2 reference faces. As I say, it doesn't matter where it is in relation to that, it's still a reference face, and an X on the surface to be drilled. Now we'll take the first one, and now the thickness of this is 7/8, so if using the simple formula, 7/8 half to 7/16 minus 3/8 is a 16, so we need a 16 spacer to center in between the reference bracket and the reference block. And I'll put it bang in the center of that one. So the check mark reference mark is here, there, here, and there. So we'll put this on here like that, move it to the top. I've already drilled these to save time, but I'll show you the drilling procedure anyway. So what we're going to do is 6 dowels on this one, 6 3/8 dowels. It's a bit overkill, but better to be over than under. So we're drilling through 2, 3, and 5. And after that, move it down to the last. And again, do 2, 4 and 5. You'll notice it hasn't taken out any more material than it did the first time. It shows you just how accurate the system is. We now repeat the process with the leg. But now we want a bit of relief here, it's more attractive. So I've got 2 1/8 of an inch spacers in there, which was obviously 1/4 of an inch. So that'll give us 1/4 of an inch relief exactly. So we do exactly the same, check mark, reference mark to reference mark, reference mark to reference mark. So I'm going to bring it up to here. And as I say, if these are already drilled. So we do exactly the same as we did for the rail, 2, 3 and 5. Slide it down into the last hole. Tighten up again, and then drill 2, 4 and 5. Now I incorporate this in with the bottom rail. This one here. This one here goes like that. So I'll do that at the same time. This is already set to 27 inches. 17 inches. Yeah, 17 inches exactly. Make sure this is level and centered. Put this on here. And drill 1 and 2. As I say, this is way overkill, but that's beside the point. There's no harm in there. Now that's one of the strongest joints you'll ever see. That would probably fail at somewhere around more than 1,500 pounds per square inch. Extremely strong. Will not fail. The next joint I'm going to demonstrate is this longitudinal tie rail here. This in effect is a 1x2 flat, and this is joined to this one here on the end, 1x2 on edge, same thing. Now what we do here first is find the center of this 10 1/4, 5 1/8, draw a line. Move out 3/4, because this is the end of where your Dowelmax will be, and draw another line. The best way to do this is to put these two together, same way. Make sure they're absolutely flush at the ends, and then do both at the same time. That way you know you won't be skewed any particular way. Doing it right across. Now what you do is, there's 2 ways of doing this. It's a face joint. So normally for a face joint we change over to what we call a second configuration and drill into the face of the wood. But this is quite narrow, so we don't have to do that. So it's an inch and a half. So half it is 3/4, less 3/8 is 3/8. So I'm using a 3/8 spacer in here between the reference bracket and the reference block. And that's all there is to it. Move it in there. First of all, I'll show you the reference marks. Reference marks are here. That reference to there. I've got 1 here, 1 there, a 1 there. We've got a line here, so we don't need that. So put this onto here, bring it up to the line, and drill 1 and 2. And then to do the opposing one, take out the spacer. This is just 3/4, so we don't need to. So there's your reference mark here and here, so there and there. And tighten your clamp screws and then drill through 1 and 2, and that's that. This makes up a very strong tie bar. I hope you can see all that. And these are of course the 4 legs on each end of there. The next joint I'll be showing you it makes up this front drawer fascia panel. It's made up of 3 pieces, 3 longitudinal pieces separate. Now the first thing you'll notice is that I've cut these 2 sections. So this is one section, this is another section, this is routed. And now I leave this center section slightly longer so that when I cut it, I can then use the center piece for the drawer fascia plate. Okay, so for the design reasons, these 2 are thicker than this one, so they're not flush. So you have to, in this case, you reference from the rear. Very straightforward, just the opposite. Just reference from the rear and set up Dowelmax to conform with these reference marks. The other thing you do here is, once you've got it set in position and absolutely flush everywhere, and you know exactly where everything's going to go, you put a fine line on all 4 intersections there. There, here, there. And then that gives you a reference mark, and you've got your other reference marks here, 1, 1, 1, and the next on the surfaces to be drilled. So they're actually going to be referenced from the rear. So we obviously are, for this we've just introduced 5/16 as a new dowel size. So this is better than quarter using the, so install Dowelmax on there like that, bring up to the line, and then drill 3 and 4, slide it along, and then install the distance gauge, make sure it's centered and level, bring this along, and now drill 1 and 2. Do the same thing again, make sure it's level, and drill 1 and 2. And then you just do the same on all four sides, and the same on here. We reference from the same place where you had your mark, come in, drill 3 and 4, use the same setting on the distance gauge to do all, and then these will all go together. That's that one finished. Now this is the table top plate, As you can see, it consists of 3 longitudinal plates with 10 3/8 dowels. 1.5 is fine. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, same along here. Now, we begin as usual. These are your 2 reference faces. 1, 1, 1, 1 on the reference edges. X here, X there. 2, 2, 2, and 2, and 2 X's. And very straightforward. Just this is 3/4, so we don't need any spacers. So we come to this edge here, check mark to check mark here, bring it up, drill through 2 and 3, slide it along. I've set this distance gauge up to 10 inches, just shy of 10 inches. Make sure it's true and level. Bring this along, tighten it, drill 1 and 2. Do exactly the same thing again into the last hole. I try to get used to doing exactly the same thing every time. So drill 1 and 2 and then just keep going to the end. And you just do exactly the same with this piece, reference to here and there, and work along using the exact same setting of the distance gauge. And the whole thing will go together. I don't usually join it with 100% of the dowels, but give you a good idea. Now this of course is the drawer assembly with 100% dowel construction, and I've used 6, we've introduced 5/16 dowels to our system, and this is ideal for this 5/16 with a 3/4 inch thick drawer wall. So I've used 6 dowels in each corner, which is probably overkill, but that's alright. Now the important thing with drawers, in my opinion, is that when you open a drawer you don't see any laminations or end grain, and so we fasten, this is the front of the drawer here, so we fasten the 2 ends to the outside. In other words, there's a face joint in here, so that when the drawer is opened there's no end grain or laminations visible. And when you put the front fascia on, of course, this laminate, this end grain here disappears. Another thing I do is I recess the inside using a dado blade in the inside here, and then fit this plate up underneath. So once again, when the drawer is open, you don't see that. Now, it is very straightforward referencing, and this I've marked as 1, 1, and we should have a 1 here and a 1 there, and an X on the surface to be drilled. Now this is 1. Now when we come to do, well, I'll do the other one first, give you a better idea. This is the normal one. Now what I've done here, this is 5/8 thick, so 5/8 halves, 5/16 less 3/8 is minus 6/16. So in other words, we have to shrink the device rather than expand it. So I've used 2 spacers here to center on the 5/8 wood, and that will spot on. So once again, check mark to check mark. Check mark here to check mark there. Bring it up to the edge and drill. You can use any sequence you like because it's very, very strong. But I'm drilling all 5 here, moving along, and then using the indexing pin to do the last hole. And that's all there is to that with the normal piece there. Now when we come to do this one, there's one again, this is one here. I'll put this towards you. I wouldn't normally do that. I'll put it towards you so you can see what's going on. Now, in order to do this one, it's a face joint. So what we have to do is remove this entire clamp bracket assembly here, including these brass studs. You take the whole thing off and you put it on there, and these studs here fit into there. And then what you have then is Dowelmax in this configuration, which is really different than that. And then you just use exactly the same spaces you used for this one, and you use exactly the same reference marks, and just make sure you reference the block. Some people reference this bracket here. That's wrong. You always reference the block, this here, and then you just drill 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Move it along with the indexing pin and do numbers, put it in there, and then drill number 5 again, and that'll give you the 6 holes. And this works very well. Now, usually when I'm doing a piece of furniture, what I do is I do a butt joint at the back of the drawer, and at the front I drew a mitered dowel arrangement. Now that can either be blind or it can be visible. If it's visible, you get an ovoid shape to the dowel, which is fairly attractive. So you'll see that this is a very strong construction, ideal for drawers. And as I say, I usually use the miter arrangement, which I'm really pleased with. And there's the recess to take the underside of the this one. Two. That's it finished, and once that's here, you have a really nice example of a drawer. Now this is our new design for the drawer slide arrangement, and involves these two runners or slides here, and the whole thing has to be absolutely level. The rear rail has to be the exact same level as the front rail in order for the drawer to run smoothly. You also must make sure that the center, I do this when it's dry fitted. I dry fit it, make sure it's square, then I find the center and I project that over to here to make sure I've got the center of this, and mark it prior to setting up your dowel arrangement. But the idea of this here is this slots underneath. This is a Richelieu drawer slide arrangement. I call it a spool. I cut them up and I use them for this purpose. And this slides up here. This is attached to the bottom of the drawer, and it slides back and forward with very little lateral movement. So it's an ideal design, and it's quite quick to construct. Now I had been doing this with 1/4" dowels on 3/8 thick wood, but now I'm doing this with this is 1/2 inch and 1.5 inch wide, and I'm using 5/16 dowels again. Much more robust and useful arrangement. Now this is the front end here. what I do here, you need to arrange Dowelmax into the, actually we don't have to, we can use it in the normal configuration because this is quite narrow. We can use it, and we have to center on the 1/2 inch slides. 1/2 inch is, half that is 1/4 inch, minus 3/8 is minus 1/8. So we have to reduce the span of Dowelmax by 1/8 of an inch, and then we clamp it on here. First of all, we find our center, and both the rear rail and the front rail. Draw a line. Move out. This is 9/16 in width, so we move out 932 and 932 at each side, and then we align the Dowelmax with the line here, and using the 1/8 of an inch spacer, we drill in 2 5/16 dowels. Then what I do is I use this here, which represents the width. I put Dowelmax in. I actually fit one of these in. That will have been finished. Then I put the spacer in here. Then I know you're exactly right. Bring Dowelmax up and touch it here with the 1/8 of an inch spacer, and that'll bring you down to the center of the 1/2 inch wood and make this all flush here. Bring Dowelmax up there in the second configuration, and drill 2 holes. And that's, they do exactly the same at the rear end, and the whole system works really efficiently. Now, as you can see, I've dry fitted the 2 guide rails to the rear rail and the forward drawer fascia rail, to give you an idea just how this operates, how smoothly and silkily it. So that's it, and you'll notice there's not much drop when it's open, which I also like. There's a little bit of drop because you have to have some clearance between the spool and the guides. So there is a small drop, but it's minimal, and it's a very smooth finish, and you don't get that grating metallic sound that when you open and close the drawers, a nice silky movement. So I'm very pleased with this arrangement.